couldn't believe it was 2 years when I spoke to Will, and I was talking about the last one that we did in Detroit at the battery show 2 years ago, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think the elections had happened, so it was like pre the elections and pre the administration change, and we're talking about what we think might happen. Some of those things became true, some of them didn't, but yeah, it's wild how fast it's gone. Yeah, you've been very busy
Been a bit
since
of a
then.
swing.
Yeah, a bit of a swing. But you've been very very busy since then. We're going to talk about the IPO, the pending IPO, and this big new agreement with Samsung SDI. But in general, since we last caught up in Detroit, how are things?
Things are great. I mean, we are, everybody's running around with their hair on fire because we got a lot to do and a little time to do it. But no, the company itself has been growing very consistently and steadily. We obviously do half of our business, more than half of our business in the lithium ion space, but the other half in semiconductor. Um, those markets have been growing very rapidly, and we have solutions that I think nobody else has that enable a lot more capabilities. And so we're really just scrambling to keep up and grow our operations and our capabilities to meet up with that demand and take advantage, because every market kind of has boom bust cycles. And right now we're in a boom in one and coming out of a bust on another one. And I think it's all dependent on how you target it, and how you deploy resources. And so we're just working on figuring that all out.
Mm. It's been dynamic in terms of areas that you're going to focus on application wise. You have to pivot your strategy. You founded or co-founded Forge Nano many years ago, 13 years ago now, I think it was. So you've, I guess, seen quite
It's
a few
almost
cycles.
15. Yeah, almost 15 now.
Wow.
So, yeah, in the battery space, for instance, this will be our third kind of boom bust cycle we've been through, which has really tailored our approach to the market, because it's very easy when you're in a boom cycle there to try to reach for the moon. But we see a lot of companies that did that, and then it was too much, too big, too fast. They failed. There wasn't enough demand for technology. It was all about delivering and pricing. And so that's what tailored our approach many years, I think over 10 years ago, when we kind of said maybe we should focus on high performance marketplaces that really do need something better and that will give you the ability to scale, rather than just having to go to world scale production on your first go,
Mm.
because that's hasn't worked so far.
Well, you've endured and obviously seen a lot of cycles over the years, and that's why I was quite keen to welcome you back on to talk about that journey and kind of how things have evolved for you. Um, Before we get into the IPO, this recent announcement with Samsung SDI is huge, of course. We're recording this on the 30th of June. I think it was announced on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll just read out some bullets here from Global Newswire's article for our viewers and listeners who haven't seen this. So, Forge Nano to construct North Carolina Gigafactory with Samsung SDI support. Manufacturing expected to begin in 2028. Samsung SDI to help Forge Nano establish and begin operations of the Gigafactory, providing operational and manufacturing support. Forge Nano to produce Samsung SDI battery cells alongside its existing cell products. Samsung SDI signs conditional procurement contract to purchase cells manufactured from the Gigafactory beginning in 2028. Forge Nano becomes authorized distributor of Samsung SDI cells to supply within the US market. And then finally, Samsung SDI accelerating development efforts to incorporate Forge Nano's atomic armor technology into their future battery products. So an incredible agreement, and one that's, I guess a lot of other battery organizations are, they envy you at this stage. And, obviously you have semiconductors as well as the battery side of the business. But yeah, that's some feat.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. being in this industry for over 15, really 20 years, myself and some of us, we haven't seen a deal like this come up in the past. And I think it's a function of right time, right place, as well as maybe the right technologies and teams, because there are a lot of battery technology companies in the U.S. and a lot of them have really good, validated technology that could be adopted, could be scaled to make better and better batteries. The problem being that bridge between having a technology and getting integrated into a large production facility. We just haven't seen anybody cross that bridge, and there's a lot of different reasons for it. Sometimes the technology isn't scalable. Sometimes the market's not ready. In most cases, the amount of capital for somebody to just do it on their own is insurmountable. But we kept looking at this model of how to bring real good transformative technologies to the larger scale, and figured you need that stepping stone and you need those partnerships to actually get it across the line. And that's where this relationship with Samsung, it allows us to lean on their scale, their know-how, their supply chain, just their great quality products to get a large facility, large for us, 3 gigawatt hour facility, up operational and cash flowing in a situation where we own it and we can then be integrating our own technologies to show both our customers as well as our partners like Samsung that what we've done is not only very beneficial for lithium ion batteries, improved performance, cycle life, et cetera, but can be scaled to that gigawatt hour scale, which seems to be the hurdle that everybody else has stumbled with. And so you have to mix creating a real business that relies on low operational risk, low market risk, with scaling and bringing in new technology. And that's what this allows us to do, with, I would say, arguably the best potential partner out there, who is world experts in building lithium ion batteries and scaling them.
Yeah, I thought the same when I saw it. I was like, I don't think I've seen anything like this before in terms of the collaboration, you distributing. So I thought this is a really interesting deal, how it's been done. It's quite a complex deal, I can imagine. Talk us through some of those complexities when getting this deal done.
Yeah, it's the market conditions are such that a deal like this could actually get done, and part of that is the 45X tax credits. Part of it is the bipartisan infrastructure funding that we got, our $100 million DoD grant, and part of it is the tariffs and now the new NDAA language around FEOC free and even made in U.S. requirements. So all of those kind of created an environment in which a US made cell factory could be successful. Because globally, if you're looking at the large global markets, it's very difficult for anybody that's not a multinational conglomerate or not very significantly supported by their own internal government to compete in that space. Yet the emergence of these smaller market segments that need high performance products or need US made products is finally gotten large enough where we can get over that threshold of 10 megawatts, 50 megawatts scale, and actually aggregate those to support a full size battery factory. And so that's part of the reason why, talking with Samsung, they want access to a lot of these customers, a lot of this market that requires U.S. manufacturing, but they don't want to put up all of the capital costs to build that out, let alone do it with a new technology that, in their eyes, may be needing some more vetting to be at that scale. And so this just pairs those up perfectly so that we can get, because we're buying the formulations, the materials from Samsung. We're able to leverage their global supply chain and FEOC free supply chain, with the assembly and building of similar products that kind of have their stamp of approval made here in the U.S. And that's huge. That's, I think, the only way that a new gigafactory really gets up and running is if you have some sort of quality stamp of approval, because customers have been, uh, I hate to say this, burned in the past, um, with new companies getting up and running and not appreciating just how complex and difficult it is for creating mass produced lithium ion batteries.
In a sense, you're paving the way in terms of how US battery manufacturing can happen. As you mentioned there, the dynamic of the industry, the multinational conglomerates are successful, and it's very difficult for any startup to get to that level. It's very capital intensive, and there's other maybe investment markets that are looking a bit more attractive. So it's difficult to really grab the attention to make this viable, commercially viable. So super complex. And we talked before about how quickly the industry has changed. So when we sat down in Detroit in October 2024, we sat down and we talked about how we think the US battery manufacturing market will look in the future. I mean, it's impossible to predict the future. Would this type of deal, would it have been possible then? And in terms of what's changed between now and then, what do you think has happened that just wasn't even in the realms of possibility back then?
Yeah, I think the policy has changed. So there's a lot more incentives and a lot more um, competitive capabilities to build in the U.S. now that just didn't exist then. At the same time, I think the large markets are a little bit less accessible. You know, the car companies are kind of walking back a lot of their electrification goals. The tax credits for EVs have gone down, but backup batteries and data centers have gone through the roof. So we're seeing a lot of the really large production shift from EVs to ESS. For data center battery backups, we kind of decided a long time ago we were going to stay away from that because um, you have to, anybody we've seen trying to bridge the gap from new technology to automotive production capability has failed because it's just such a big cost intensive. Northvolt had billions and billions of dollars and struggled to get it across the line because it is a really daunting task. And we focused on the areas where both high performance and U.S. manufacturing were absolute requirements. It's not as big, so I can tell you a lot of your traditional like VC investors would not be supportive of a business model like this because they read market reports, they want to get a return on capital the fastest way there, and that's going after the really big marketplaces. But that kind of ignores the reality of manufacturing, which is you have to just do it, and hopefully you do it at a scale that's reasonable enough so you make all your mistakes at a small scale, you get that learning, and then you can do it at a larger and larger scale. Um, but that it's hard to get behind that from an investor group. But it's absolutely needed. For instance, here in the U.S., where for Department of War activities, every a lot of things are either hybridizing or electrifying, like drones or underwater vehicles, and we just don't have a supply chain or an industrial base to support anything above tens of megawatt hours.
And from this specific partnership, what were the biggest lessons you took from agreeing this type of deal? I can imagine there were many things that you were doing for the first time, perhaps in this sort of agreement.
Yeah. This is kind of a one of a kind. So our partners at Samsung and us had to really think through how to make this work and get even their organization on board with doing something that they haven't done in the past. Um, and that's clearly defining what the benefits are on both sides. For example, the large cell producers and Samsung as well, they want access to the best technologies, but they also don't necessarily want to foot the bill for every new company and every new technology that comes up. So the benefit for them is obviously a great deal of interest in ALD technology as applied towards their products, but getting past that last scale up hurdle in a way that doesn't risk all the investment that's going to go into building this factory. On day one, we'll be churning out very good, high quality cells um, that don't require our technology to be made, and then we can integrate that later. We also hope long term to be part of that missing link that we haven't had in the US and even Europe, of somebody who can vet out new technologies, even if they're not our own, integrate those, scale them up, and help some other great companies get up to scale and start showing that what they do is a globally viable technology.
Nice. We'll switch a bit now to the IPO. I've even got on my notes here that you started building Forge Nano 15 years ago. I don't know why I said 13 earlier. A bad host, I'm sorry about that. But kind of going back to 15 years ago, was going public on the cards? Was it like an end goal, or was it a goal in the pipeline at that point?
I mean, it's certainly not an end to anything. It's really, like I said, kind of recognizing we need access to capital. A traditional venture route wasn't going to be. We hit that. What do they call it? The missing middle in the capital markets, where you can get venture to seed up to whatever series you want, but getting a large hundreds of millions of dollars worth of capital to build a first of its kind factory that will allow you to be price competitive, allow you to scale. Um, the VC market just does not have an appetite for that outside of one or two types of deals or companies a year, and then even the private capital markets. It's kind of very cyclical whether or not they're all in on some of these things, or they're sitting on the sidelines. Whereas we've seen a great appetite for the public markets to recognize and get comfortable with some of the risk reward profiles of new companies and new technologies. And so, really, going public for us was a means to an end to get the last bit of capital across the line to build out our production capabilities, both for lithium ion and our semiconductor products, which I think it would have either taken too long, or we may not have gotten there otherwise in the private capital markets, where the last year or two have been um, very, very light in terms of funding. Um, and I'll say funding in the number of companies that get funding. Certain segments of the market, obviously, you can raise as much capital as you want. We usually see that where there's some darling industries that are really emerging, but across the board, and building a company and relying on capital to be there, it's just very difficult to do that in the private markets.
No, absolutely. And before we talk about the future and what's next, and with the IPO, let's go to the past and the last 15 years. Try and summarize this as quickly as you can. It's going to be super hard to do, but talk us through the key pivots that you've had to make over the years, and maybe some of those decision-making processes, because there's many founders and business leaders out there that have ultimately have to make these decisions and have to pivot. So talk us through your journey over the past 15 years.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just coming from a science or engineering background, with the assumption that solving a difficult problem or having a really neat technology was enough to build a business around, and kind of learning through trial and error that that's not the case. Customers buy solutions, not technology. And you can be very smart, but that doesn't mean you've solved the problem for a customer. And so we've had to, over that 15 years, really learn how to um, really dig into what the pain points are for the customers and what a solution is. For instance, on our semi tools, um, it's not just that we make a really good tool. We also have to have service. We have to have support, warranty, financing options. You have to have that total solution for a customer to actually buy from you. It doesn't matter. Our tools are 10 times faster than everything else in the market. That is interesting, but what they really want is a credible supplier that they can trust in, that's going to be there to fix the tool when it goes down 24/7. And we have to have a global service and support team to do that. Those types of lessons learned, I think, are the biggest pivots moving from trying to sell a technology that as engineers and scientists we all felt was the coolest thing in the world. Why wouldn't everybody want this? To learning very intimately what our customer needs are and providing them a total solution to get a sale. That's probably the biggest lessons learned.
That's such a true statement that yeah, when you're in it and you're immersed in it, you're like, this is amazing. Like everyone's going to love this, and then you ultimately get some feedback from someone else with a fresh pair of eyes who has no idea about this, and it's like, no, they come out with all these questions and these concerns, and it's like, oh yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, I think that's why it's really important to have a team of people in the business who have different perspectives, different experiences, and can ultimately flag those before it's too late. So no,
Mm-hmm.
good stuff. So talk us through your preparations and plans for the IPO, and then yeah, what will happen afterwards.
Yeah, so I mean, the process we went the DSPAC route because we haven't done this before. We wanted partners who knew what it took to get there, help us along the way, help us with the capital raise side of things. So we partnered with Archimedes Tech SPAC 2. Great team there, management group, a lot of experience and connections within the marketplace. They helped us get everything ready and announce the business combination and submit to the SEC and raise capital. So we have, I think we've announced at least 100 million in pipe funding that we'll be getting as we go public. The SPACs also have funding in trust. Now there's a redemption vote, and we kind of just assume or we build our models around not receiving any of those funds. But it's an opportunity to potentially have additional capital land in our coffers that we didn't expect, or raising other ways might take a lot longer or be more difficult. So we really like the route. It helped make the process not quite as onerous because at the end of the day, we still have to run a business. We still have to make products, generate revenue, and there's a whole lot of work that has to go into getting prepared for and then continuing to be a public company.
Nice. I'm not going to ask you the question, what's going to happen post IPO, because we tried to predict the future before, and then everything changed. So, but anyway, let's try. Best case scenario, Paul. What does the what does the future look like after the IPO?
Yeah, well, I mean, the important thing about this company and what got me excited was at the end of the day, the technology, this atomic layer deposition technology, is so powerful. I liken it to creating the assembly line for manufacturing. Just any product you want to make from a science and physics standpoint, I can make it better by engineering it atom by atom. That being said, not every product needs that level of precision, but so many industries are getting so competitive or trying to push the envelope of their capabilities. Um, what we do is, I think, inevitable for large amounts of the next 50, 100 years of manufacturing. And so getting public, getting access to the capital we need to get ourselves to that next level, validate our scale up, and then really move on to additional verticals. We do everything from magnets and solid rocket fuel to vaccines that are create significant benefit from having our atomic armor coatings. And so that's what we're excited about. This is a company that has one of the largest addressable markets of any manufacturing company in the world.
Very exciting. Not many people have achieved what you have in the industry, and what Forge Nano have achieved is, as I said before, it's kind of paving the way for a lot of other companies in terms of how to really manufacture in the US. Um, what secrets and lessons can you share? Because there's many obviously trying to aspire to do something maybe slightly different to what you are, of course, but there's many startups that I work with and speak to every day that they need help and support from someone who's done what you have. So anyone aspiring to do the same, what are your secrets and lessons that you can share with them?
I think my team may not appreciate it every day, but at the end of the day, being very uh, conscious of our spending. and making sure we don't blow through funds frivolously. I think from the beginning we focused on, even though we didn't have battery production or large scale manufacturing, we were working with customers, um, generating revenue from the very beginning, and I do think that's extremely important for any company. At the end of the day, whatever you're building, you need to deliver to customers, and getting that experience working with customers, understanding what their needs are. Um, I think that's extremely important, and that's part of what helped us navigate through, offering a technology and then finding out that what the customers really need is a solution. So stay customer focused, stay lean, and just you know, really, it's been hard work every single day since we started this. Uh,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at no point do I feel like we ever hit a lucky break. So it really just fell back on the team rolling our sleeves up and getting done what we have to get done every single day.
It's one of the like when you say lucky break, it's I'm a strong believer in you make your own luck. You have to be consistent, you have to be relentless because ultimately when doing anything, it's not easy because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So you have to be resilient and keep going, be headstrong in the sense that you back yourself and your team and what you're doing, what you're producing, but then as you're going through that journey, not being stubborn, um, that you keep the strategy the same. You pivot as you have done many times over the years. So no, really good advice. A slightly different question. You referenced the team. When assembling your team and assessing people for the business, what traits do you look for? What's important to you when working with people?
We really try to focus on hiring people that are self motivated and capable of learning on their own the things that they don't know, so that we're not constantly having to realign, and refocus or train individuals. We want people that come with an ability to teach themselves, so that these little stumbling blocks or hurdles that you run into can be overcome. Because we see that a lot, especially in really big organizations. One small little hurdle can cascade and delay projects for weeks or months. But if you hire really smart people that know how to learn, even if that hurdle is not something that's in their wheelhouse, they can go find the solution. Oftentimes, that takes less time and allows projects to move forward much faster than if they don't have that kind of an innate sense of problem solving.
Mm. Do you think that can be learnt?
I think at the end of the day, that's what schools try to teach everyone is, whether or not it's very interesting to see, but whether or not everybody picks up that the most important thing they learned in school was not the facts and figures, but how to be a good learner, how to open up a book or search the web or something to find the answers to what you're doing, even if you don't know everything about it. So I do think everybody has that capability and capacity. It's just whether or not it's been encouraged enough within them to overcome, I'll say, the initial fear or inertia of somebody trying to say, well, I don't know what the solution is. It could take a very long time to figure it out, versus, all right, here's a problem. Let me get enough information to start understanding how the solution needs to look. And once you get halfway through that process, you can probably solve it on your own.
Yeah, that intuition, that curiosity, and then as you continue that resilience and being able to keep going. It's an argument. Yeah, some people are born with it. Some people can learn it, but I think it's a bit of both. Our final question, Paul, consistent for every guest on the show. You've summarized a few of these. Well, you've provided a lot of advice throughout the episode, but just to summarize, for anyone building a business out there right now, what's your single best piece of advice for them?
I think it's probably persistence, and setting yourself up for that persistence. Like you kind of alluded to, making your own luck, meaning if you have a really good product or you know that you have an impact in a market, you have to be around and viable for when the market recognizes your impact. And so a lot of it is just surviving to the point where your product or your business becomes crucial to the market that it's trying to enter into, and that sometimes just takes time.
Sure. Well, I'm conscious of not complimenting guests too much, but you deserve a big congratulations and well done from not just me but the entire industry, because, as I said, you're paving the way. You're setting an example of how things can be done. There'll have been pessimists 2 years ago saying that US battery manufacturing can't happen. So, a huge congratulations on the agreement with Samsung SDI. Good luck with rolling that out and executing, obviously, with the IPO as well. So, to kind of continue hitting those milestones. So yeah, good luck, and hopefully in our next episode together, we're talking about even more exciting things.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. We are firm believers that US battery manufacturing can happen and that we're going to be able to show everybody how to make that happen.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Paul.
All right. Thanks, Jamie. Good talking to you.